Caring for your loved one who's losing their autonomy can be exhausting, and there's a real risk this could turn into caregiver burnout, and that is not what I want for you. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 factors that increase the risk of caregiver burnout, and I'm going to give you several tips to help you mitigate those risks. Hi you, who's doing the most important job in the world. I'm Sonia Weyers. I'm a certified Gestalt-therapist, and in 2018 and 2019, I cared for both of my parents during their final years, and now I want to support you who's caring for a declining fellow human. So let's get busy preventing burnout. The first factor is that maybe you're neglecting your self-care. The daily demands of caregiving are such that your self-care might just fall off your list of priorities, and I understand. But if that's the case, I really encourage you to reconsider that. You're going to be no use at all to your loved one if you burn out. When both of my parents were declining in parallel in their home, which was a 4-hour drive from mine, I started calling sometimes family members, but sometimes even their neighbors or people who I had barely met, but who had expressed interest in helping if they could, so that somebody could go be with them while I took the time to prepare and get to their house, not completely frantic, right? You might be surprised how willing people are to help when you're in a pickle. So let's go through a few things that you can do for your self-care that don't take a lot of time. So the first tip is to stay hydrated. It doesn't sound like much, but it's really important. And carrying a refillable bottle just isn't that hard. But being even mildly dehydrated actually fatigues us more, and it increases the risk of exhaustion, even of burnout, and a whole host of other things. So just make sure you have some water or some herbal teas with you, and try to avoid caffeine because that doesn't hydrate as well, and try to avoid sweet drinks because that's a whole nother can of worms. The second quick healthcare tip is to reduce your consumption of junk food. So maybe you get a bag of peeled carrots and some hummus instead of a bag of chips. You know, there's often some very accessible, healthier, and more nourishing options. The third quick healthcare tip is to move your body. Even if you just do a 7-minute workout 3 times a week, that's a whole lot better than nothing. My fourth self-care tip is to try to get some restful sleep. Now, I know that this is easier said than done, but maybe you can try to avoid screens for an hour before you go to sleep, and maybe you can sleep instead of binging Netflix. Even that will do good things for you and for your risk of burnout. And my fifth self-care tip is to organize some breaks. So depending on your situation, maybe you can rely on some family members for that, or maybe there are some professional services near you or community services, but having some breaks is really essential. Can you let me know in the comments which one of these you're going to try? Because I can talk all I want here about self-care, but if you don't take care of yourself, no one will. So the second risk factor for burnout is actually social isolation. Your life might be so full with work, kids, a home to manage that having a loved one who's losing autonomy might make it really hard to fit in socializing on top of all that. And yet social isolation can be really harmful, and it can definitely increase your risk of burnout. So let's see how you can turn that around. So who in your friends and family can you be in regular communication with, even briefly? Or maybe you could join a support group. That kind of emotional and social support is exactly the kind of support that I provide in your Support Within Your Reach, the support community I run. There may be local community activities that you could participate in, but that might take more time, so it's up to you to see if you have the time for that. There might also be some virtual meetups available. And in your Support Within Your Reach, we actually have monthly support calls, and that might be a good support for you too. So hit the like button if you're going to do something today to improve your social connection, so I know that this video is of use to you. The third risk factor is perhaps you're striving for perfection. If you're in a position of caregiving, you probably have a desire to do a good job, and that's fantastic, and you can be proud of that. And yet, it can lead to unrealistic expectations. So I recommend that you take a bit of time to review your expectations and your priorities, and also the expectations you have of your loved one, because they may only be the shadow of who they used to be, and that can also be really hard. If you need help with that, that is something we can do together in your support within your reach. I know I struggled some with unrealistic expectations when my parents finally moved to a retirement home near me after living 4 hours away. Soon after they moved, my dad had to have another big surgery, and he was in the hospital for 4 weeks after that. They were suddenly both within a 15-minute drive of me, so that seemed really easy, and I put it into my head that I would go see both of them every day. After about 3 days, I was almost going crazy, so I realized pretty quickly that was not realistic. So I changed my plan. I decided to go see my mom one day, my dad one day, and one day I would just take care of my own life. But I needed to actually try to go see them both every day, right? To see how unrealistic it was. So let me know in the comments if this is relevant to you, right? So I can help you to let go of your unrealistic expectations. Having more realistic expectations and more achievable goals will actually reduce your stress, and so it will also reduce your risk of burnout. The fourth risk factor is maybe you have a lack of resources or support. The hardship of having to care for a declining loved one, whatever your level of involvement, really calls for support. So I strongly encourage you to be on the lookout for resources that could help you. I obviously don't know the specifics of your situation, so that's research you have to do yourself. As far as emotional support, that is what I focus on in your support within your reach, and so if that's what you're missing, I'd love to welcome you there. I decided to create that community to bring together my training and experience as a Gestalt-therapist and also my personal experiences caring for both of my parents during their final years. And I wanted to put all that at your service, you who are doing some of the most important work anyone can do. You'll find the link around this video, but it's yoursupportwithinyourreach.com otherwise. The fifth thing I want to talk about is perhaps you need some help improving your time management skills. This can probably help you to manage all your responsibilities better and lessen the feeling of overwhelm. The first thing you can do is to start time tracking to see where your time is going in the event that you feel your time is somehow slipping away. Then you can sort through your priorities and actually put them on a calendar. You can also see there if there's some tasks that you might be able to delegate. Maybe you simply have family members who could do a little bit more. If you manage to regain a bit of time, that will alleviate the feeling of overwhelm for sure. And you might even have a little bit of time left over for some interests or hobbies. And this would contribute both to the reduction of your stress and to the reduction of your risk of burnout. Now, there are several different kinds of caregiving, and so the caregiver stress can be very different depending on the cases. And a very specific kind of caregiver stress is dementia caregiver stress. So in the next video, I'm going to give you 4 steps to reduce your dementia caregiver stress. So just click on the image and I'll see you there.